please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Very good evening and thank you so much for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Kritika Saxena. Let's get straight to the top corporate focus this evening. The promoters of Fortis Healthcare, Balvinder and Shivender Singh, have issued a press statement breaking their silence, assuring stakeholders in Fortis Healthcare that they are doing whatever it takes to resolve issues plaguing the company. Now, the Singh brothers have asked shareholders to be patient and allow them to share facts for a balanced view. They have given an assurance that they are not going anywhere and will address all issues with responsibility. This comes just a day after Fortis Healthcare Holdings have announced that lenders have invoked 16.1 crore pledged shares of the promoters, bringing down their holding in Fortis Healthcare to 3%. Now, out of this 3%, 79.5% is also pledged to lenders. So, effectively, if these pledged shares amount to 2.38% are invoked, the Singh brothers will be left with a holding of just about 0.62%. But to put that into context, the shareholding of the Singh brothers stood at 70.28% as of the 30th of September 2016. Let's in fact go across to Shireen Bhan, who has a special guest with her to take this discussion forward. Shireen?
Let's go across now to Sandeep Parikh, legal expert and, of course, former member of SEBI. You know, this is a matter that is being looked at by SEBI, the market regulator. We also understand that the SFIO is looking into the issues pertaining to the Singh brothers and Fortis. Now, what do you make of this press statement? They're not providing any information for why they believe that facts have been misrepresented. All they're saying is that these are large, complex matters and we need time to address them, and also trying to allay concerns that they're not fleeing the country or have not fled the country already.
Yeah, so this seems like a classic public relations release, really. It's really a press release. So it's I don't any except I think the only thing they seem to be saying here is that we're not fleeing the country. That is assertion they're making. But beyond that, you know, the allegations are not of failure. You know, failure is pretty common in business. The allegations are of, you know, defalcation of money and, you know, removing money through related party transactions. So those are the things which SFI or SEBI and the other regulators are looking at. Of course, they may be not guilty at all. But I think that will be seen only once the investigations are over. It's too early to prejudge in either direction.
Absolutely. As you pointed out, it is early to prejudge. But Sandeep, you know, what kind of cognizance, if any at all, will the regulator or the investigating agencies take of this statement that's coming from the Singh brothers? And as I pointed out, I mean, the statement leaves more questions unanswered than it answers, because it talks about matters that are large and complex, but it doesn't specifically point out to what those large and complex matters are. It talks about honoring and fulfilling commitments. Again, it doesn't talk about what those commitments are. It leaves more questions unanswered.
Yeah, so as I said, it's a public relations attempt. It's kind of a press release meant to kind of salvage their reputation, not really address regulators. And obviously, as they themselves say, there are complex actual scenarios which need to be explained. And they will, they're of course obliged to the regulators who are looking at all these transactions. So as I said, I think the aim is only to salvage their short-term reputation. And longer term, of course, things will come out only once the investigation is completed.
Yeah, Amit Tandon also joins us now. Amit, appreciate you joining us. This is a statement that's been issued by the Singh brothers, leaves more questions unanswered, essentially saying, give us time, we will get back to you. Facts are being misrepresented. And the headline, if I could call it that, from the statement is the Singh brothers saying, look, we are not going anywhere. That would assume that they're still in the country, but very categorically stating, we are sure that we're not going anywhere and will address these issues with responsibility and sincerity. What do you make of it, Amit?
Well, first, does it bring closure to any of the charges which have been made regarding the financial transgressions? It doesn't. And the second is, I guess, at this moment, it's just buying time. It doesn't clarify in terms of what has happened. It doesn't clarify what they will do. All they're saying is, look, hang on, it's complicated. Most things are complicated if you are in the business world, but that does not mean that you kind of wait and issue a statement like that. What you're supposed to do is first, try and simplify things to the extent you can, and come up with a solution and offer a solution to say that, look, we will address things in the fullness of time. It's far more complicated than you imagine, etc. If it's complicated, it's because they've made it so.
Sandeep Parekh and Amit Tandon, as always, thanks very much for joining us with your views on the latest statement that's come in from the Singh brothers. Let me now bring you up to speed with the latest in the PNB case. The bank today responded to queries sent by the National Stock Exchange and the Bombay Stock Exchange to a question about how the fraud was initially reported as 280 crores but was subsequently changed to over 11,000 crores. Now, Punjab National Bank has replied that further investigation into the fraud led to the enhanced amount being disclosed. On the question of why it had not reported the filing of the FIR to the CBI at the time of occurrence, PNB has replied saying that news and public would have alerted the fraudster and hampered recovery. The bank has also said that it has enough capital to meet the liabilities decided by law and has followed all legal avenues to recover its dues. That reply comes on a day the Enforcement Directorate has seized 9 luxury cars belonging to Nirav Modi, including a Rolls-Royce Ghost. It's also freezed mutual funds and shares worth 7.8 crores belonging to Modi and over 86 crores belonging to Mehul Choksi. Meanwhile, the CBI has said that Vipul Ambani, who is the president for finance at Nirav Modi's Firestar Group, was aware of illegal LOUs allegedly issued by the PNB employee Gokulnath Shetty.
And Sharina's investigative agency are turning up the heat on the accused in this case. Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi are believed to have snubbed the Enforcement Directorate. Sources say that the duo have written to the Enforcement Directorate refusing to appear before the agency. Utkarsh Chaturvedi, who has confirmed this information with the ED, is here with the details. Utkarsh, what exactly has been communicated? And, just give us a sense. Is this purely protocol that they have to kind of indicate to the ED that they will eventually be present?
So this is more of a protocol, and if you look at the contents of the letter which we have got from the Enforcement Directorate, there's not a lot which has been said. Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksi both have the same line. Nirav Modi has said that he is busy in his business, and that is the reason why he cannot come and appear before the Enforcement Directorate. On the other hand, Mehul Choksi has said that he is he's traveling at this point of time and he cannot appear before the Enforcement Directorate and will reply to the summons once he is back. But you have to realize that the reason why these replies have come is because, one, this is protocol, and second, both of these companies are arguing in the court that everything which they have done is legal, the LOUs were legal, and also they have approached the court to defreeze their assets. Now, once they don't respond to ED, they will act like a fugitive, and the fact that they're acknowledging the Enforcement Directorate summons makes their case a bit better in the court cases, and that is the reason why they have responded to the summons. So majorly a protocol, and ED will go ahead with issuing the second summons, and this can happen either tonight or tomorrow morning. This is more of a procedural kind of a thing, and ED will have to wait till the third summon is sent and is not being appreciated and replied by all of them before really beginning the whole proceedings of issuing a red corner notice or the extradition of both these two accused.
Well, this is the big CNBC TV18 exclusive tonight. The focus is on investing in India, not profits. A categorical assertion from the global CEO of Uber, Dara Khosrowshahi. CNBC TV18 held a special town hall at IIT Delhi where Dara interacted with students in what was a freewheeling conversation. Uber's CEO also said that he wants India to become the second tech center for the company outside the Silicon Valley. When asked about SoftBank being the key investor for both Uber and Ola, Dara said, for Masayoshi Son, it's not Ola versus Uber, it's Ola plus Uber against car ownership. He also opened up on the rivalry with Ola, which he believes helps Uber build better products. From getting bullied by siblings at home to his admiration for Jeff Bezos, the Uber CEO was at his candid best, and he left us with the headline that he wants Uber to be the Amazon of mobility.
What about your equation with Travis Kalanick now? There's been a lot of press on where things currently stand between the two of you. Apparently, you got off to a great start. It's a bit shaky now. Where's the story between you and Travis?
I think, listen, under the circumstances, this has been a very difficult transition for the company, and it's been a difficult transition for Travis as well, right? I mean, it's from going and leading this company as the CEO to having to step back a bit as a board member. That's a tough transition, and obviously the press coverage would be difficult for anybody. What I can say as far as Travis goes is these transitions can be difficult, but he's always been there. You know, he is still passionate about the company. He's rooting for the success of the company, and he's always been available for me when I've wanted to ask advice for him, etc. Now, in my coming on board as a new CEO, I have to make my mark. I have to take the company in a different direction, and I have. And that is probably a direction that Travis, you know, might or might not have taken it, but I've got to take it in the direction that I believe in, with the culture and the norms that I believe in. But what I can say for Travis is he's been there for me. When I call him, he gives me good advice, and he and the board are rooting for the success of the company, which means they're rooting for my success, and so far so good.
So let me now talk to you about the direction that you have as far as Uber is concerned. I think it was to our affiliate CNBC that you said, I'm pretty confident that we can turn knobs to make this business profitable, but it would mean sacrificing growth and innovation. In terms of the knobs that you've been able to turn so far, you know, what aspects of the strategy have you been able to successfully turn so far, and what's next now when it comes to being able to turn the knobs, and what do you mean when you say it will come at the cost of growth and innovation?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first part is about the culture of the company. Regardless of, you know, when you get into strategy, et cetera, if you don't have the right culture of the company, your strategy almost doesn't matter. And one of the first things that we did when I got on board and I got together with my team was to redefine the values, the core values of the company. And the way that we did it was kind of cool, which is we essentially went out and talked to all of the Uber employees, and we almost crowdsourced the values of the company and the values that they believed in. And then as a senior team, we got together and talked about the values, and we came up with what we call the cultural norms of the company, because norms are about behaviors, and you don't want values just to be words on a wall. Sure. You actually want people to live them. You want them to feel them. So we took care of that, and I think that the company is really taking those norms to heart. And one of the really important ones is a simple one: we do the right thing, period. Once we did that, I was able to start getting a team together, and I brought some really important team members. And then we started looking at the strategy of the company in terms of growth and profitability. We're aiming for an IPO in 2019.
Are you on track for that?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah?
I can absolutely say that we are. We'll see how the markets are and the environment.
What do you think are going to be the triggers in that final decision? I mean, obviously, you're going to have to keep an eye on where things stand in terms of you being able to bring down your losses, because that would then give you the kind of valuation that you would expect from the market. But outside of what happens on the balance sheet front, what are going to be the other considerations that will decide the timing of the IPO?
I think the most important consideration is actually the market conditions. And then also the systems that we have internally. This is a company that's been growing incredibly quickly, and we've been very focused on our product. What's our product like to our driver partners? What does our product look like to the users? The algorithms, the very sophisticated algorithms that are about matching supply and demand and pricing. We've been very outwardly product focused. As you think about putting the frameworks together to take a company public, you actually have to invest in your systems, in your accounting systems, estimates, et cetera. A lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily add consumer or driver value, but is necessary for a company to go public so that you can report in a timely manner. Those are the kinds of investments that we're making. Frankly, I think the company did the right thing to focus on product, and then product. But now we have to focus on more than one thing. And I think our execution on the system side and then market dynamics are going to be the determining factors. Everything I see about the growth of the company, the profit potential, the innovation and the new products that we're investing in, autonomy and Uber Air, Elevate, et cetera, all of that part of the business part of our company is right on track for an IPO.
Okay, so if the focus was on product, is the focus now shifting more to profit as well? And in the quest for profit, I come back to again the question that I asked you. When you talk about sacrificing growth and you talk about sacrificing innovation, what is it going to mean? Is it going to mean exiting markets outside of the US that are not doing as well for you? What is it finally going to come down to?
Well, listen, I don't want to sacrifice growth, and I certainly don't intend to sacrifice innovation. And that's what I was saying, which is we have to be careful not to turn to profits too quickly. We are actually investing quite aggressively this year because if you look at the market that we're addressing, we announced this last quarter that we're at a $40 billion bookings run rate, growing revenue over 100%. There are very few companies of our size that are at our scale, still growing revenue at 100+%. But when you step back, we are competing in the transportation space. This is a $5 trillion marketplace that we're going after, and we account for less than 1% of that market. So you will find me investing as much as I can humanly get away with and still go public.
Okay.
That's the trick.
But again, answer the question about exiting markets that...
what if I don't want to answer the question?
Okay,
No.
I'm going to keep trying. My job is to try. My job is to try.
Damn you. I thought you'd take it easy on me. Come on.
Yeah,
She was so nice to me backstage. Now she just gives it to me.
Southeast Asia, there's been a lot of press around that.
Our plan at this point is to invest. So Southeast Asia, our investment in Southeast Asia this year is going up. In India, actually, we continue to invest, and we consider that absolutely a core market. So we're going to lean forward. Now, at the same time, we'll look opportunistically at any opportunity. And I do think that as you think about a company that over a 10-year time frame, you want to be able to grow not only organically, but you also want to be able to grow through transactions and acquisitions, et cetera. You look at how Google has grown, Android, YouTube, et cetera. Acquisitions and deals have been a big part of their growth. And when I look at Uber and where we want to be 10 years from now, it's going to be a mix of organic growth and there will be transactions. But right now, I'm much more focused on organic.
You have an interesting situation in India where SoftBank is also the largest shareholder of your fiercest competitor, Ola.
Yes.
So how does it all work?
Well, you'll have to ask them that question. I think, listen, SoftBank is a very big picture investor. And when I talk to Masa about his beliefs, Masa's core belief is that the ride-sharing space is a space that's going to grow. People 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when these folks get old enough to drive a car, because they're so young they can't be that old, they're not going to want to own cars. Right? Cars are a huge waste of assets. On average, cars on a global basis are used 4% of the time, and 96% of the time they're sitting around. It makes no sense as far as asset allocation goes. So more and more as we move forward, and as our business scales, and as we introduce new technologies like Pool, where people can share a car, or we introduce new technologies such as autonomous, the cost of our services is going to start rivaling the cost of car ownership. And ultimately, our services are going to, I believe, replace car ownership. And just to put that into perspective, we account for less than 0.5% of miles driven on a global basis. Less than 0.5%. When our cost of our services get closer to car ownership, and I think it's going to be in 5 to 10 years, we're not talking about a business that's going to grow 50%. We're talking about a business that's going to grow 10x, 20x, 30x once we become a true alternative to car ownership. So I think SoftBank isn't thinking about Ola versus Uber. SoftBank is thinking about Ola and Uber versus car ownership, and I think that's a pretty darn good bet.
But still, I mean, from a practical perspective, you're competing with them in a market like India. You know, SoftBank clearly putting big money into Ola as well, which it's using against Uber to compete in a market like India. What's the conversation that you then have with Masa?
But I view this as we're not spending against Ola, we're spending against car ownership. We are actually building mobility as a service, and I think our competing with Ola, it's a healthy competition because it forces us to improve our product, it forces us to be innovative, it forces us to reduce prices, and ultimately that's going to come at the cost of car ownership. The businesses have to scale, they have to get more efficient, but you know, I don't have to worry about that. I just have to compete against Ola. I'll let Masa worry about, you know, what he's doing with his capital.
Okay, since we're talking about the future of mobility and we're talking about the future of Uber, you've also said in an interview that you don't want to be seen purely as a car for hire company. You want to have the ability to run a bus system for a city, for instance. I mean, how much into the future is that?
I think that it's within 5 years. So if you think about our business, and I'll compare us to Amazon. Amazon started with books, okay? And then was able to expand into many other products and then opened up their marketplace to third-party retailers. I view us as where we want to go is be the Amazon of mobility. So we started with cars, which are books. Now if you take a look at our products, we've got cars and we're introducing auto and moto, for example. We're introducing pool as well. And we're also introducing other products such as Eats, which is a food delivery business that's growing very, very well in this marketplace. But we're not just about moving people, we're now about moving food, and we're going to be about moving things going forward. All of those are new product lines that we're adding, not in the retail space, but in the transportation space. The next step that we're taking is actually opening up our mobility platform. So for example, in San Francisco, this is a small test and it's going to expand. We are having a third-party company called Jump, which is plugging in electric bikes into our platforms. These are not Uber bikes, these are Jump bikes, but they're showing up in our platform so that our users can use them. You can expect that to happen over and over so that third-party mobility services can plug into an Uber. Where I want to get to is a world where you can take a train to commute or a ferry to commute, and once you get to the other side, there'll be a motor driver waiting for you, taking you from point to point, from the train station to your work and back, etc. And ultimately, our technologies, these matching technologies, the payment technologies, are going to extend beyond the private sphere, I believe, but also into public partnership as well. We're early in those conversations. It's going to require a lot of dialogue and a lot of trust, but I want Uber to be about getting you from point A to B, regardless of the way you get there.
You know, you said that you also want to have the ability to move things. So is a foray into the logistics business something that you would consider as well?
I think it's certainly something that we are considering, and actually we're more than considering in the U.S. There's a business that we have built called Uber Freight. And Uber Freight, if you look in the U.S. at least, the way that freight moves around is that shippers will, for a certain percentage of their shipments, they call up a broker and they say, I want to move this shipment from point A to B, it's this many miles, it's got to get there by X date. And these brokers start calling truckers, who are independent contractors, mostly in the United States, to get a bid and get that shipment through. There's a huge friction cost to that. These brokers, they charge too much. So what we're doing is we're taking all of that process, we're using our marketplace technology, supply, demand, and pricing technology to totally automate it, so that we're essentially building an electronic Uber for freight, and at the same time we're working on autonomous trucking technology so that we can serve parts of those routes and eventually all of those routes through autonomous trucks and radically reduce the cost of shipping as well. So we are now actively working on getting things from A to B as well.
Welcome back. You're watching India Business Hour, and on to our exclusive news break. After building the IT infrastructure for Aadhaar and the GST network, Nandan Nilekani could be involved in a new assignment with the government. This time, he could help build the infrastructure necessary to roll out the government's flagship announcement in the budget, the National Health Protection Scheme. Rituparna Bhuyan is here with the exclusive details. So, Ritu, it looks like Nandan Nilekani's resume is only getting longer.
The National Health Protection Scheme will have a very robust IT infrastructure in the back end because this IT network will connect the National Health Board, which will be at the core of NHPS, with the data regarding beneficiaries, as well as to the primary health centers, which will be carrying forward this scheme at a ground level, and also with different schemes offered by packages offered by the health insurance companies participating in NHPS. We have now been told by our sources that the government will be seeking feedback from Mr. Nandan Nilekani regarding setting up of this IT infrastructure. In fact, one meeting has already happened regarding this, where Mr. Nilekani and officials of Niti Aayog, Health Ministry and NIC huddled up to discuss the initial contours of this IT infrastructure. As of now, however, we do not know in what capacity he will be continuing to advise the government regarding setting up as well as designing this IT infrastructure. But we have also been told by our sources that the government is now giving final touches to a cabinet note which will formalize the structure of the NHPS, and this cabinet note is likely to be taken to the cabinet for approval in the next couple of weeks. With that, it's back to you.
Joining us is Mohandas Pai. Mr. Pai, appreciate you joining us here on the show. As I mentioned, after Aadhaar and after the GSTN, we understand that Nandan Nilekani's help or support could be used now for the National Health Protection Scheme. Your first reaction on that?
Well, this is a very happy thing for India. It's a great thing. Nandan is a transformational person. He has created two of the largest portals in the world, the GSTN network and Aadhaar. And I think his coming in will make sure within 2 or 3 months we'll have it up and running with the best technology minds in India and the world, because he has the experience and ability to design and build large systems. And it's not easy to do that. NIC cannot do that. And if you put out a tender, ginder, binder and all that, it'll never happen in this country. And if you want to see the benefits, it has to happen in the mission mode. And I think it's fantastic, because that means that we are closer to reality to make it happen than ever before. This is very great news for everybody.
Let me also ask you about how crucial the IT infrastructure, the IT backend is going to be to ensure that the National Health Protection Scheme in fact works and is viable.
Well, I think it's very important, because the chief enabler without the National Health IT backbone is not going to work. Remember, you have to put 100 million people onto the portal. Nowhere in the world, I think, this 100 million people on the health portal ever happened. So you need 100 million people, and to put 100 million people in a short period of time is a huge, huge task. You should know how to design it, how to use the building blocks, and how to make it work, because not only should you issue the policy and put them onto your portal, you've got to make sure that they can use it to go to the hospital elsewhere, get the health records, create an e-health records, make it available to them on the mobile phone, on the feature phone, and make sure that everything is available to them and create a channel. Now, the design issue in this whole thing is humongous, and I think Nandan has worked on that earlier, to do some design for something like this earlier, because when you look at what Nandan has done, Nandan has worked on health, on giving financing, and on education, and Aadhaar. So I think all these things in the social sector has been done by him in terms of a conceptual design. So getting him in will make it faster. Without the IT backbone, it's not going to work.
Let me also ask you, Mr. Pai, you know, Nandan now is back at Infosys. It's no longer the case while he was working on Aadhaar or the GSTN. Is that likely to be a cause for concern? Could conflict of interest issues be raised if he were to be brought in to assist the government on this issue?
I don't think there'll be any conflict of interest, because of one important thing. He's a non-executive director. And if there's going to be any tender, anything to be built, and I think they'll open a tender, they'll be done at arm's length. He's not going to be involved in choosing the partners or who is going to do it, right? He's only going to be involved in designing it, or maybe doing it, or maybe the government will use something like the GSTN network to build this. They may not even go in for tender if they want to do a thing, because going in for tender may take more time. Possibly they can use something like the GSTN network, where something already exists, or the Aadhaar UIDI network to make it happen, or something else. So let's wait for him to come. I don't think there are going to be conflicts. If there are any issues, it will be handled well at arm's length. I don't think people have to unnecessarily pick on. Of course, the leftist malcontents in this country will pick on this, because many people don't want the poor to benefit. We will learn to live with it.
I don't know what you consider Subramaniam Swamy, Mr. Pai, but he, of course, has been very vocal in his opposition to this issue, not the National Health Protection Scheme, but issues in the past pertaining to the GSTN as well as Aadhaar. But we leave it there, sir, because as I pointed out, we're still awaiting clarity on this issue. We're given to understand that only the first meeting has taken place. But many thanks for joining us with your first reactions. And here's another exclusive tonight. Google and Facebook keep me awake at night. That's a candid admission from one of India's top bankers, Uday Kotak. Reacting to WhatsApp launching a mobile payment feature, Kotak said technology is disrupting banking in many ways. While Kotak welcomes technology, he also underlined the need to beef up digital security. You said that risk mitigation is something that keeps you up at night. What about the disruption on account of technology? I mean, we now have WhatsApp Pay here in India, and you know that's got the potential of being a game changer. So how much of that is keeping you up at night?
When I say that I keep awake at night with whether I'll have a bank next morning, I think it could be on two counts. One is security, and that's one aspect of it, and the second is a Google or a Facebook having invaded the banking space.
They're already here.
So we have to be paranoid on both counts, and we've got to move at great speed on both these areas. But keep in mind that as we push faster on the technology front, and if I can use a phrase, as we move swiftly on the technology front, we've got to be...
Swift is not necessarily the best choice of words.
We have got to be careful that we are really getting our security aspect as well right.
Yeah, as I said, swift is probably not the best word at this point, but you know, in the context of the disruption that Google Pays or WhatsApp Pay are bringing into the Indian market, how do you compete with that?
No, I think the issue really is the key long-term game for banks is customers, and on that I'm very happy to say goes back to our end March launch of 811. We had said in 18 months, we would move to double the customer base from around 8 million. Our scorecard at the end of 9 months is we have crossed 12 million customers, which is, we are very much on track. And we continue to see a phenomenal growth in our customer base. And we are very, very happy about the speed at which we are acquiring customers and building deeper relationships with customers going forward. And ownership of the customer is going to be the key, and then providing the whole host of digital solutions. Therefore, I genuinely believe that India is a huge opportunity on the digital side, but we must have our focus on managing risks simultaneously, and they're both two sides of the same coin.
Hey, that was a candid, detailed interview with Uday Kotak. But let's get now to the big national story of the day. Army General Bipin Rawat's comments on the rise of AIUDF has stirred a controversy. Remember, yesterday at an event, General Rawat made a reference to the AIUDF while highlighting reports of an increase in Muslim population in several districts of Assam. Now, his comments did not go down very well with the AIUDF itself, which alleged that the BJP was spreading communalism. Later, the Indian Army clarified that the Army chief's remarks were not in any political or religious taste.
There is a party called AIUDF. If you look at, they have grown in a faster time frame than with the BJP grew over the years. There is an identity problem with people in the Northeast. We've got to overcome this problem. They are very much part of our country. We have to integrate them with us. And unless development doesn't happen holistically, this problem will remain. We will have more trouble in segregating people, identifying people. Yes, some people have to be identified who are creating trouble for us, who are illegal immigrants. Amalgamating these people with us is not a very complex problem. I think if we are able to identify the issues and move forward, we will get a solution.
It's a great sign for the people of Assam that AIUDF is purely a secular party, and AIUDF is working for the downtrodden and deprived section of people. BJP is a communal party, and the agenda taken by BJP is mainly for Hinduism.
Moving on, the sale of first batch of electoral bonds will take place on the 1st of March and will continue till the 10th of March at authorized SBI branches. The bond that was notified on the 2nd of January will be valid only for 15 days from the date of its issuance. As per that scheme, only political parties which have secured at least 1% vote in the last state or Lok Sabha elections will be eligible to receive the bonds from SBI. This move is, of course, aimed at bringing transparency in the political funding system. Moving on to India's ranking in the Transparency International's Global Corruption Perception Index stood at 81 among 180 nations in 2017. Now, this is basically a marginal slip from the year 2016 when its ranking stood at 79. That index measures perception of corruption in the public sector and uses a scale of 0 to 100 to score nations. India's score remained intact at 40 points in both 2016 and 2017. In 2015, though, India had scored 38 on that index. So, how does India score among BRIC nations? Take a look on your screens. You can see that China and South Africa fare better on the index. Brazil and Russia, meanwhile, lag behind. Globally, New Zealand and Singapore, with scores of 89 and 84 out of 100, respectively, top that very list, whereas Somalia is the worst performer.